pleasant good morning to all. I should say thank you very much to Juliet, Miss Juliet Solomon, who is holding down the post as hosting this opening ceremony. And while I would like to adopt the protocol that has already been established, it would be remiss of me if I did not recognize Mr. Stephen O'Malley, who is the resident representative for UNDP based in Barbados. The UNDP, his office, oversees work in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Mr. Mansfield Blackwood. I'm catching Juliet's virus. Who is the USAID representative, mission representative to government in the OECS, the Eastern Caribbean, as well as Deborah Wahlberg, who we just heard from, the Creative Associates lead in this project, and all other staff members who are here from the UNDP, the USAID. We welcome you and we thank you very much for being with us. Of course, I also have to recognize Permanent Secretary Knight, who is here with us standing night, and we would want all our local participants to be as engaged as possible in this whole exercise. I should note as well, I note the Director of Legal Aid, Mr. Alethea Gums, who is here with us, who does quite a lot of work with juveniles, representing them before the High Court and the Magistrates Court. I'm indeed grateful to have this opportunity to address this gathering here this morning at the Ocean Terrace Inn at Fort Lands. On this, the opening ceremony of the inception workshop of a project designed to help build a greater understanding of citizen security. And in so doing, also the use of data to inform policy making and programming on youth crime and violence in St. Kitts and Nevis. This inception workshop will provide an overview of the project outputs and targets. I was here at the OTI just a few weeks ago, sometime in November 2016, at the launch of USAID's Youth Empowerment Service, YES Project 2016, that those who came before me have mentioned. That program, which has as its development objective the reduction of youth involvement in crime and violence in target communities. Some of you who are here today were in attendance in that program, at that opening ceremony, at that session, and you recall that the UNDP and the OECS Secretariat Commission, as well as Creative Associates, were all partners in that program. The UNDP has successfully, as we have heard, been one who has bid for a major project from the USAID, and so they are spearheading this workshop program across the Eastern and Southern Caribbean, including the OECS countries, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Suriname, termed strengthening evidence-based decision-making for citizen security in the Caribbean. This workshop, therefore, is in part an important component of that broader program, the YES program. And we have heard descriptions from not only Mr. O'Malley himself, but from Mansfield Blackwood and Deborah Wahlberg as to the other components that will follow after this particular one. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is indeed grateful to the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and the USAID for this initiative. We here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as do our neighbors in this region, face a number of developmental challenges. While St. Kitts and Nevis has done better than most of the other countries in terms of its recent economic growth and per capita income over the past few years, there's much still to be done. But whatever progress we may make may well be threatened if we don't get control of a lot of the ills that plague us at this moment. We know that we have high homicide rates here, as in the wider region. And in the wider region, you have a regional average of about 30 homicides per 100,000, as well as other forms of crime and violence, which can impede any progress we may have made and progress towards sustained growth and development. The UNODC Global Study on Homicide for 2014 reveals that as many as 5 Caribbean countries were among the top 20 countries worldwide with the highest rates of homicides per capita. And this number 5 includes St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's a matter of great concern for us as a people, because not only does it lead to a reputation that is not good for our country, but can impact as we move forward in terms of the economy, how we develop as we go forward. We often refer to a number of factors that can affect us in relation to our crime situation. A lot of this has been anecdotal, maybe too much so, which is why this particular workshop is of such extreme importance. Higher unemployment among our youth, our young men and women, are at higher risk of engaging in high-risk behaviors, such as gang affiliation, criminal activities, which include robberies, drug trafficking, and other violent activities. We are told by researchers that homicide rates are largely attributed to intimate partner violence, gang-related youth violence, and the availability of illegal firearms. In Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, street gangs also contribute towards growing insecurity among our people. You'll be made aware, I'm sure, in the workshop, of a recent study that was undertaken by the Regional Security Service, the RSS, in which they have found that there are some 139 street gangs in this sub-region, with some 1,578 street gang members. These were reported by police in the various islands under the survey via a survey. In each of the countries, gang members were typically between the ages of 12 to 24. I know the study also has found that in some cases, they are gang members as young as 9 years old. We're talking about primary level students who become members of gangs, are influenced by this at-risk youth in our society. The RSS study, very tellingly, also revealed that youth in St. Kitts and Nevis were 4 to 5 times more likely to be involved in a gang than youth in other Eastern Caribbean countries. So for us, we should be very aware that we are very much an at-risk society in terms of gang violence. The issues of youth development, citizen security, and juvenile justice are of serious concern to my government. While we have moved to strengthen the security forces with significant increases in our national budget allocations, some 10% in 2017 over 2016, while we introduced a number of initiatives, including a multi-million-dollar CCTV project that begins in this first quarter. Over the next couple of days, we'll start rolling out, installing cameras around the island. While we have improved forensic equipment, other equipment, and an increase in recruitment in the security forces, we hope that we'll have a few dozens more police on the road and so on. And also, while we currently also place an emphasis on judicial and legislative reform, such as the completion of a second High Court chamber at the Salih Llewellyn Moore Judicial Complex in Bastia, and the request for a second High Court judge for St. Kitts to deal with a backlog in criminal as well as civil caseloads. And also, we should note that we have begun work on a third magistrate court chamber here in District A in Bastia, bringing to 4 magistrates courts in St. Kitts, along with the 5th one in Nevis. And while we work on such pieces of legislation as the Bail Act, to strengthen those, and have other laws relating to criminal activity be reviewed and strengthened, there is also a need, as we have heard before, for a more multi-sectoral approach, where we consider an approach towards dealing with a young criminal activity in our country by having departments, ministries, across the board work together in terms of dealing with this. The approaches that we normally want to have in relation to strengthening our security forces, our police forces, what can we do to make laws we hear from some segments of our community more draconian, a traditional approach where we tend to focus primarily on prevention and punishment. We want to punish. Some of the things you see in the press are a little alarming and startling. Comments that are made that we will have to look at. We here in St. Kitts and Nevis had introduced last year, at the beginning of last year, I think of the year before, for the first time, a criminal justice strategic board. This board, the CGSB, is in itself a multi-sectorial approach to criminal justice. And I should just want to point out that the board is made up of the police, where the Commissioner of Police sits. We have the prisons, the Superintendent of Prisons sits on this board. The courts, where we have the Senior Magistrate, the DPP's office, we also have, though, the education department is there. We also have the probation departments, child protection departments on this board. We have juvenile detention center, the New Horizon. The head of that department also sits on the board. The Defense Force sits on it, I should also add. But it is, and the Ministry of Health also has a representative here as well. So we do have an agency network that meets from time to time to discuss the challenges that we have in the criminal justice system. And I should say that just at the beginning of December last month, we were happy to have invited and had a team from the UNDP who came and made a presentation to our board to lay out much of the type of work that you will be looking at over the next 2 days. It was very interesting because one of our first programs that we set out to do with the CGSB was to establish a statistical framework, to try to establish a statistical framework. We invited the Director of Statistics to come and make presentations to us, and we felt that whereas we do get some form of statistics from 1 or 2 agencies that are published, the police from time to time would publish how many homicides, how many robberies, how many different types of crime. We don't have those published in terms of the state of the prisons. We don't have a number of other data, statistical information published. And so we as a body meeting would have needed to have had the type of data, the type of information needed to produce, as it was, quality advice to the cabinet for us to make proper policy decisions. That's what this workshop is about. It is a workshop that is designed to have you who are in attendance, and we would have liked to have more here, to understand the need for data, the types of data, the factors, the critical factors that need, indicators that need to be looked at, the data to be collected, what framework, what are the protocols. And that this workshop is designed to give us that critical data needed to move forward. We have heard from Deborah Wahlberg that the types of interventions that will be needed once we go into communities, we need to know who these young people are, and they will be at different levels of at risk. Some of them, as she mentioned, the pyramid, if you remember the pyramid, would be primary, have the potential, maybe just barely getting in, and they'll be more hardened, as we will say, at the secondary and then the tertiary. But we need to have had proper data that is tested, that is standardized, that we can compare across, not just St. Kitts and Nevis, but throughout the region, those 3 countries that we have been told that the UNDP and USAID have put their money behind this program. And it's for us as participants to understand the need for our country to understand the need for the types of data, the importance, the critical importance of the measurements of those who may be at risk. There may be students in primary school who guidance counselors could tell us that these individuals have the potential for getting off the rails. And if we have that data, that information, we'd also be finding that the workshop would help us to look at how that data could be used to help develop policies, solutions as it was, to the types of problems that we'll face. And so we welcome the project very much. We hope that our participants will work hard, understand the significance, to be excited about it, as we were when we started off in our CGSB for our data and when we had a visit. And we hope that you understand the significance of what we would be dealing with. I just want to say that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis is indeed grateful to the UNDP and USAID for this individual. We would want that we have, as it was, the issues of youth development, citizen security, and juvenile justice. We want that to know that these are of serious concern to the government, and that we would want that everything is done to ensure that we can deliver to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The question of social safety and basic services require significant resources to combat the fallout of drug trafficking, increase in violent crime, and high murder rate due to our local gangs. And of course, the scourge of the increasing availability of illegal firearms. These have a significant cost on our economic growth. I would want to, before I wind up, also point to one or two other initiatives that we are doing, because we believe that the programs that will be unveiled, rolled out under the YES project, the YES program, this strengthening of our measures, data measures, and understanding the use of these, that they will take some time to come into fruition. We have, you would recall, just a couple of weeks ago, I think it was a week or two ago, started a program where we have engaged Dr. Neil Chaitan to do certain interventions in schools, at the prison, with at-risk youth, and so on. So it is a first step, but it is in and of itself. It is only one component, but we need to have, all of us as public servants, understand the need for data. There are other interventions that are going on as we speak. We can speak to the issue of the rebranding and the reform of the PEP program, the People's Empowerment Program, which had been a program for those youth and others who were unemployed, and which the government has taken a policy decision to evolve, to migrate that to one of a more training for young people to prepare them specifically for the world of business of work. Very similar to what Deborah and Creative will be doing in those communities that they will be targeting. But these are all, we hope, will work together to assist us in dealing with our problem. Again, I must thank again for the third time UNDP and the USAID for its continued support of the programs which are targeted to our youth, not only in St. Kitts and Nevis, but throughout the region, to assist us with activities that support an improved evidence base on crime and violence, community-based crime and violence prevention programs, improvement in juvenile justice systems, addressing the management of youth in conflict with the law. And so I wish all of you well over the next 2 days, and I hope we'll gain the full benefit of this workshop that has begun here today. Thank you very much.